Sweet dessert-style wines are made throughout the world. There are several methods most commonly used to produce these delicious wines. Let's take a look at each one. The most common dessert-style wine is fortified wine. Fortified wines date back hundreds of years. Before the discovery of electricity and refrigeration, merchants would typically fortify wines by adding a neutral grape spirit or brandy to the wine to protect it during the long sea voyages along their shipping routes. The thinking being a distilled spirit at 40 to 50% alcohol would kill off any bacteria or other spoilage microbes. At first, the merchants were adding the brandy after the fermentation process was complete. This made the wines highly alcoholic, but they still retained the youthful bite from tannin typically found in red wine. The English referred to this wine as blackstrap, as they likened the experience of drinking these wines to chewing on blackstrap leather. Not a very pleasant thought. However, it wasn't until the late 17th century that the sweet dessert style of fortified wine that we all know was discovered in Portugal. Two Englishmen stumbled onto the mountainous town of Lamego. Here, the abbots were adding brandy to their wines while fermentation was still active, effectively killing off all of the yeast. The result was a wine that was sweet because the yeast had not yet converted all the sugar to alcohol, but high in alcohol because of the addition of brandy. Today, you can find fortified wines all over the world. They're relatively easy to make and don't require a unique climate or soil to produce. The best-known fortified wines include, of course, port, but there's also the fortified wines of France, like Muscat Bum de Venise and Banyul, or the incredible Stickies from Australia. To be sure, there are other ways to make sweet fortified wines, like in Madeira, where they actually cook their wines, or the Mistel wines of France, where they add brandy to unfermented grape juice. But those are topics for another video. The next set of wines are technically late harvest wines, which can be found all over the world. However, these two styles predate the modern late harvest wines and set the stage for their popularity. First up are the botrytis-infected dessert wines. Botrytis, or bunch rot, is a condition where fungus infects wine grapes late in the growing season. A combination of warm weather and moist conditions, similar to what you get in the southern portion of Bordeaux, France, or the Tokai region of Hungary, is where botrytis is most likely to form. The fungus dehydrates the grapes, concentrating the grape sugars and natural acidity. Early on, before the introduction of temperature-controlled fermentation tanks, winemakers used brimstone candles whose wicks were dipped in sulfur and burned in empty wine barrels. The residual sulfur would interact with the fermenting must and kill off the yeast before fermentation was complete to leave a wine still with a lot of residual sugar. Today, winemakers use temperature-controlled tanks to achieve the same result. Since botrytis-infected dessert wines require a unique climate for the fungus to form, they are not as widely produced as fortified wines. You can find botrytis-infected wines in Bordeaux and the Anjou region of the Loire Valley in France. There's also the sweet wines of Germany and Hungary that are also made from botrytis-infected grapes. The Germans typically label their botrytis-infected wines as Birnauslese or Trockenbirnauslese. In Hungary, there are the incredible sweet wines labeled Tokayazu. The final and most rare of the sweet dessert wines are the ice wines. These are wines that are made from actual frozen grapes. As you would suspect, there are only certain wine regions of the world where the conditions are such where the grapes can actually freeze. The two most famous ice wine regions of the world are in the cool climate vineyards of Germany and along the Niagara Peninsula in Canada. In Germany, the grapes must be harvested in temperatures of -7 degrees Celsius or 19 degrees Fahrenheit. In Canada, it's a bit lower. But in both instances, the grapes are commonly harvested in colder conditions. The harvested grapes are then pressed in their frozen condition, and only the sweetest juice, whose freezing point is lower than that of water, is obtained as a highly concentrated must. The resulting wines are intensely sweet and made in only the years where these conditions can be met. I have only seen ice wines in half bottles, and the quantities are minuscule and very expensive. For those of you who want to know what kinds of foods to pair with dessert wine, you should always start with the first rule of thumb, and that is that the wine should be sweeter than the food. Some foods that aren't considered dessert can pair well with sweet wines too, such as foie gras and roasted nuts. Salty blue cheese like Stilton or Gorgonzola pair really well with sweet wines and is one of my go-to recommendations. As far as desserts that pair well with sweet wines, I've found that vanilla ice cream with toasted walnuts goes really well with tawny port. Try apple pie or creme brulee with botrytis-affected sweet wines. If you have some recommendations that you love, feel free to leave your comments in the comments section below. So, there you have it, the most popular and famous sweet dessert wines in the world. Next time someone asks you about dessert wines, you'll have a story to tell them. Thanks for joining me. If you like this video, I hope you'll press the like icon, and if you'd like to see more videos just like this, I hope you'll press subscribe. Until next time, peace out.